Another hashtag with a name on it. Same story, do the fighting be in vain, Lord? We keep on hearing about the same story. I'm tired of fighting, I'm tired of yelling. How much longer till we sing a new song?
Y tengo una visión que mi gente despertará, que sean más valientes con nueva mentalidad. Estoy cansada y frustrada, el tiempo es now.
How much longer till we sing a new song? I'm tired of fighting, tired of yelling, my people keep dying. God, is you tweaking? Freedom is needed, this season ain't leaving. Look, people don't know what to say now, and fear be the way now. We due for a breakdown, look. How much longer till we sing how much longer?
Riverbeds call for rain, and let the dying soul breathe life again, and let these broken dreams rise awake, and these once living stones reanimate. Oh, no more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted years. No more, yeah. No more, yeah. No more, yeah. Listen, it's time for Jubilee. Hear it speak. Every whispered prayer come to be. Every broken scale be unpaid. The ends and contrite hearts revived again. Yeah. We say no more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted years. No more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted years. When the splendor falls, all things must come to light. Come to light, to light, to light. Come to light, to light, to light. And when the splendor falls, all things must come to light. Come to light, come to light. No more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted no more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted, no more wasted, no more wasted. Right on time.
Ahora quiero que repiten conmigo. We say, levanten sus voces.
Lift up your voices.
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 I say, no, 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 no. No more
wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted years. No more wasted, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted years. You say, we say, no more wasted minutes, no more wasted days, no more wasted hours, no more wasted years. waste. No more wasting. No more wasting. Yes, what's up? Y'all give it up for my sister Nikki, my boy B-Joy, my boy So Chill, and the man himself, James Pack. My name's Wright. We are Common People, and we're bringing you the sounds from the lyrical underground, the spiritual underground, dedicated to them that always had a sound, but it never got around. So we gotta put it down. Tell me, can we kick it now? Say, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Say, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Say, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. So Chill on his way. Here we go. Here we go. Say, I'm on my way. Yeah, 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 I'm on my way. I'm on my way. My boy James on his way. On his way. On his way.
My Lord, my Lord. So many empty tears falling on the floor. No more, no more. I might be limping, but I'm kicking down the door. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way.
I put the message in the bottle, few words I couldn't swallow. Funny how the alphabet yesterday I touched my tomorrow. Damn, fam, can hurt you more than the curse. Black folk ain't got a whoop with rims on a hearse. I feel intense like Indy Gas and Willie Lynch. I wonder, can I test the sky? Just some ceiling fans. Generational, inherently black. Educational, the impairing the tech, but I ain't tripping. Just spitting written descriptions. Listen, I keep it real like I'm fishing. I gotta die like tuition. With the rail on my back, I can't lose. You got 2 boys and a Batman. I'm blasting. I'm on my way. 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 I'm on my way.
My Lord, my Lord. So many empty tears falling on the floor. No more, no more. Might be limping, but I'm kicking down the door. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way.
Oh, baby, I done did it again. I put my fist in the drink and pain to the pen. You need to release, I hate to pretend, but I done seen too many people playing get hit. I'm making it quit, I want you happy. I want you never stressing about your next meal, but focus on your next meal and on your next meal. I know you love me, I never thought that I just tweak from time to time. I always be ride or die, I know that real thing hard to find. So I'm so committed to the vibe now, always thinking about right now. Always be in it, out of thoughts I truly need to type out. Getting better with time now, we got way pull the sky down. We'll be on our way, on our way. This is sorry for the hard times, but the good times always our way. It's not an excuse, it isn't proof, I'm just saying. We live in abundance in our radius is effervescent. I love your essence, but baby, whoa. I'm on my way.
Yeah, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
Keep on her way.
I'm on my way.
James on his way, on the way, we on the way.
My Lord, my Lord. So many empty tears falling on the floor. No more, no more. I might be living, but I'm kicking down the door. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way.
I'll be on my way.
I'll be on my way.
I'll be on my way.
I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way. I'll be on my way.
Chill on his way.
And Wright's on his way.
Yeah, chill on his way.
And Wright's on his way.
Common people on their way.
And we on our way.
So we stay on the way, on the way,
On our way.
on the way. I don't know justice.
And I haven't met peace.
I mean, I was told that I met her. I was told that peace lives around here, but I think they must be confused. Confused with silence, perhaps. In fact, I asked silence, and she said,
Nah, young man, peace don't live around here. I don't even look like that queen. She sings and carries a big sword with a smile so clean. Her hair is natural and it rings like that.
All right, if you're on your way, put your hands together. Welcome everyone to Archaeology Silence, Kehinde Wiley Speaker Series. We're live at the DeYoung Museum on this Father's Day weekend, this weekend of Juneteenth, this weekend of Black liberation and memory. Clap your hands if you're glad to be in the building one more time. My name is Michael McBride. I serve as the executive director of Live Free USA. We are the sponsor curators for this 6-part series, the Archaeology of Silence, here at the DeYoung Museum, and we're super grateful to be in partnership with Love Not Blood and Google today to help continue the conversation, an important conversation about how we end the silence and, dare I say, break the cycle that causes too many of our loved ones to be memorialized in the aftermath of state violence against the bodies, the souls, and the minds of Black folks. Since 2004, Live Free has trained well over thousands of fathers, mothers, young people, directly impacted individuals, formerly incarcerated folks, communities, congregations. We believe that at the intersection of ending gun violence and mass criminalization of people of color, therein lies the power of the people to change the worst conditions of violence in our communities. And part of that conviction has led us to this moment and to this point. What we have found out is that the heart and the mind is rarely transformed without a radical interruption of our cultural aesthetic sensibilities, which is to say that our bodies, particularly those of African descent, those melanated bodies in this country, are often too much the object of disdain and the ability to be thrown away, to be discarded. We want to interrupt that sensibility and remind ourselves that these bodies are human. They are flesh. They can be broken. They can be injured. And this country has a long legacy of discarding the humanity of too many of our bodies. Therein lies the silence, the complicity of so many of us in this country, in this context, to not stand up boldly and say, we will interrupt the violence. We will interrupt the racism. We will interrupt the systemic and structural oppression that breaks the bodies and the spirits of our loved ones. Last month, during our Mother's Day weekend, we had a collection of mothers from all across the country, and we heard from them. We heard their stories. We heard their pains. We heard their reflections from experiencing the Kehinde Wiley exhibit. And we also heard from them a challenge. We heard from them a charge that this will only change when all of us, everybody say all of us, when all of us stand up and say, not anymore. Well, we want to continue this conversation because we know that for every mother who has mourned and lost their loved one, their child to violence, we also have fathers who are part of the grief, the loss, the anger, the helplessness, sometimes the hopelessness that is a result of losing their child. You are here to help continue this conversation, and it is a continuous conversation. If you've missed the first conversation, we invite you to go to our website, liveforusa.org, or go to the DeYoung Museum website. Capture that conversation after the conclusion of this conversation so you can hear the balanced perspective of mothers and today, now fathers. Despite so many media misrepresented statistics and narratives, Black fatherhood is not absent. Somebody say amen. The fact is that Black fathers devote more time to parenting than fathers of any other cultural or racial background, according to a 2013 study by the Center for Disease Control. Why is that important? Because as you will hear from some of these fathers, too often we as fathers are seen and narrated as a part of the problem. We are often regarded as a reason why these deaths happen because we are not present. What it does is it distracts all of us from remaining focused on the real culprit in this tragedy, which is the state, which is the system of policing, the system of carceral institutions that have preyed, P-R-E-Y-E-D, somebody say amen, too long on our bodies. And so today, we want to ensure that we elevate the voices, the hearts of these fathers, and acknowledge that our journey towards wholeness, healing, wellness is often a little bit differently situated, and the journey looks a little different than others. So we want to create space for that, and we're so grateful to you being here to help us hold this sacred space today. On behalf of myself, Love Not Blood, Google, and the DeYoung Museum, welcome once again to the Kehinde Wiley Archaeology of Silence Speaker Series. Now, as we have tried to ensure this conversation is one that is always intergenerational, one that spans across time and place, we have implemented the well-practiced libation ceremony as a part of helping to bring in the room the voices, the memories, the commitments, the spirit of our ancestors and so many who have been impacted by this issue. So grateful to have Brother Abram of the DeYoung Museum. He is the Director of Interpretation. He is going to lead us now in our libation ceremony. Put your hands together for Brother Abram as he comes.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abram Jackson. I'm the Director of Interpretation here at the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco, and I'm humbled and honored to be the facilitator of libations today. As many of you might know, libations is a tradition from many cultures. Definitely the motherland is one of those places where it's practiced, and also it's a Black American tradition that was that our ancestors brought here. And it's a way to revere and honor those who have died. It's a way to remember their lives, and it's a way to commemorate their legacy. And the practice is as follows. Oftentimes it's water, it could be Hennessy, it could be alcohol, it could be whatever liquid that's meaningful, that's poured into the ground or to a symbol of ground that is of life. And so I had the honor to do a tour earlier with some of the fathers, and it's extremely humbling to be in their presence, and I'm looking forward to their insights today. So I'm going to say a name of somebody, and if join me in saying Ashe after I say their name, and I'll pour water into this flower representing the land. Darius Tarver, Daunte Wright, Oscar Grant, Andrew Joseph, A.J. Owens, Banco Brown, Jordan Neely, Sandra Bland. And if you would honor this moment by shouting out names that you've lost and you want to commemorate in this moment. Minds, we honor them, and once again, thank you. It's an honor to perform this, and as we are engaging in today's panel, we speak their names, so thank you.
Come on, let's appreciate Brother Abram, everyone. Again, he is the Director of Interpretation And I just want to acknowledge and appreciate every delegation we've brought as a part of this series thus far. Obviously, the mothers on Mother's Day and the fathers during this time. He is wonderfully and graciously on his day off. I know it had to be his day off if they get one. Showed up early to lead them through a private tour to give them that special touch on a weekend that is and could be very difficult for them as parents who've lost their loved ones. So just one more deep appreciation to Brother Abram. Thank you so much, sir. Deep appreciation to you. It would be of great value to just ground this conversation with a few of our partners to give you just a quick sense of how this collaboration came together and why it is and has been so important to ensure these conversations happen today. And certainly we have 3 more conversations that are coming in the month of July, the month of August, the month of September, and a fabulous closing ceremony we will do at the band shell outside in October. We wanted to make sure you all who may be experiencing this for the first time got an opportunity to hear from some of the sponsors and collaborators in this moment. And so very grateful to have some representatives from each one of our sponsoring groups here to just sit and talk for a few moments to share their heart behind this gathering. And I'm super excited to bring up the board chair for Live Free USA and the principal of the Intentional Group, the wonderful, amazing Sherrie Deans, who will moderate this quick discussion. Put your hands together for her.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. I'm going to ask my panelists to come up while I introduce what we're going to talk about. And I know this is not why you came here, but we live in a time where there are shouted expectations for people to do things. Why don't they do this? They should get it more engaged. They owe us this. And so when people show up in ways that they don't have to, I think we should acknowledge that. And when you sit in organizations that are traditionally predominantly white, it's usually someone inside the organization moving this kind of work forward at great cost to themselves. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank them. I also wanted to take the opportunity to show how easy it can be for us to work together. And so we're just gonna spend a couple of minutes. Hello, friends. What you see here today is the 4 legs of this table that have been working on this project over the course of the last, we started February, I think. So I'd like to introduce all the folks here. All the way to my left, Adrian Scher, Regional Giving Lead at google.org. He's the money man. Next, Devin Malone. They are the Director of Public Programs and Community Engagement at the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco. Devin has been our navigator in this organization. And then this is Uncle Bobby. Hi, Uncle Bobby. He's the founder of Love Not Blood, and I'm here representing Live Free. Yes, I'm sorry.
Co-founder.
Co-founder.
Yes, my wife. Just for clarity, I am the co-founder of Love Not Blood campaign. Of course, my beautiful wife sitting here is the other founder of Love.
Clearly, he wants to stay married. So, Adrian, I'll start with you. This is an unusual investment for google.org. I don't imagine that you do a lot of investments in fine arts museums. Can you describe the nature of the gift? You don't have to say the number, but you can. But the nature of the gift and why you made it.
Yeah, so first off, thank you all so much for joining us in conversation. I'm not shy about sharing the number. We gave $2 million to make this happen, which is a big number.
Yeah.
For a little bit of context, we've been rocking with Live Free and Pastor Mike for almost a decade at this point. I think 7 or 8 years, if my calculations are right. And then largely, we've done so much work in racial justice. We were one of the early organizations and companies to step to the table way before George Floyd. Back Charlottesville, if y'all remember that. that's when our company came to the table, largely because of Justin Steele, who's in the audience here, who carried the weight for that internally. And for us, how this particular project came to be, we do a lot of work here in the Bay Area, mostly focused on homelessness and housing. But when this opportunity came to our tables, I'll tell a super quick story, but our chief marketing officer sent Justin and I an email and said, hey, do me a favor, can you meet with the DeYoung? Don't give them money, don't do anything, just meet with them. That's all I ask. And we get those questions all the time. So Justin and I have a playbook on how to say no. Thank you so much for coming. That's a cool project. The way our budget works is. And so we were prepared, coaching ourselves to kind of go through that model. Thomas, the executive director, showed up 45 minutes late to a 30-minute meeting. And immediately was super apologetic. He's like, look, I know I'm taking up way too much of your time. Just look at these pictures. This is the Kehinde Wiley exhibit that I want to bring to San Francisco. I promise you'll be moved. Justin and I looked at them and we had a moment of like, oh, damn, this is real. Like there's something here, neither of us are art people. We're not fine art, connoisseurs. And so for us, it was a half step, far for us to make that connection. But as soon as you saw the art and the exhibit, we were moved and we knew there was something here. And so for us to be able to bring funding to the table to make this happen was the first step. But the second step for us is really making it accessible, right? Because it doesn't matter if we bring an exhibit here and the doors are closed, it costs too much money to get in, that's not doing it for us. And so it's about making this accessible to community. So that's the whole motivation for us to jump on this project. So as a part of making it accessible and connected to community, we said, okay, DeYoung, we're gonna support all your programs that you're doing, which Devin will talk about, more of the activation for community. But we also want to bring Pastor Mike and Live Free crew to the table because what they're doing is literally the motivation behind the art that you see, right? That art, hopefully y'all have seen it, is hard. It's heavy. It talks about violence and exclusion and grief and sadness and sorrow. Who's doing that on the streets of Oakland? Who's doing that work in Richmond and in Berkeley and in San Francisco? It's Pastor Mike and Live Free and the crew behind the work. And so our one stipulation to the DeYoung was, look, we'll come to the table, we'll fund all the stuff you need to fund to make it accessible and pay for the tickets on the weekends and whatnot, but you got to work with Pastor Mike, and that's how we got here today.
And so, Devin, we have 6 sessions planned together. Yes. 6 sessions. We're talking about to mothers. Last month we talked to mothers who'd lost. We're going to be speaking to fathers who have lost their loved ones today. We're talking about intersectionality, reparations, Black August. We're covering that in August, and then we're going to end with the hip hop, gospel, R&B concert in the band shell. So I imagine this is what y'all do all the time. This is different, right?
It is different.
Okay.
But I think that this work and this project created a really exciting opportunity to illustrate values that we already have, especially within public programs specifically, but also the values that the institution overall is aspiring to.
And when did that happen? Has that always been the aspiration, or has it been a process?
I would say it's been a process, and I think that part of that process and that sort of aspiring towards equity, inclusion, anti-racism, et cetera, picked up quite a lot of steam in the wake of George Floyd's murder. And I got hired after that. And I would say that in terms of my work specifically, and the work of my team, which includes Rosario, Maria, and Rocio, who are somewhere in this building making things happen because they do that every day. I would say that ethos exists within us on a different level. I think there's the institutional level, but then there's also the work of us as people of color and people who live in the world and see what's happening and feel a responsibility towards that.
Thank you. And Uncle Bobby, this is now your second panel. What does it mean to have your story represented in an institution like this?
It's, am I on?
Take it.
Okay, hello, you can hear me now. Yes, first I am for those that may not know, the uncle of Oscar Grant, young man killed January 1st, 2009 here in Oakland, California. What does this mean for my story to be elevated? It's powerful for us to have the opportunity to have this platform to talk about your loved one. And I can remember when Pastor Mike came to me and shared this idea about having this conversation. Of course, then, you know, I wanted to make sure that there were others included. So it wouldn't just be my voice and me talking about Oscar, but other fathers and other mothers also talking about their loved ones. And so we went into conversation to make that happen. And here we are today. So it means the world. It means so much to me that these fathers that's going to have the opportunity to share their loved one on this platform is what this is about. It's not just about my story. If I have an opportunity to have a platform, I love for other fathers to also articulate their story. Because as Mike shared earlier, many times we don't get to share our story. We don't have this opportunity, this type of platform to share our story. So it gives that sign that we're absent, that we're not being responsible and taking care of our families and we're loving on our children. So I'll pin it there because I know we'll probably have more discussion on that. But it means the world to me.
Back to you, Adrian, without getting too political, it seems that the pendulum is swinging in corporate social responsibility and social justice in the corporate world. 2020 was at its height. Everybody was Black Lives Matter, black boxes, pro everything, and making very, very deep commitments. And right now it seems that there's very little clear space for organizations like yours to move without risk. So I imagine that investing in an exhibit focused on state-sanctioned violence comes with its own potential risks. One, is that a true statement? And two, why did you take the risk?
Yeah, so it's absolutely a true statement, and it's partially why you don't see a lot of organizations or companies throw their names or their logos on work like this, or even to support groups like Live Free. You know, there's a calculated risk, right? I come from corporate philanthropy, which means this is Google's money, right? I get to direct where that goes sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's Google's money, and these corporations are largely risk adverse, especially when it comes to stuff like this. And so you are absolutely right. There are so many risks that are associated with this, but the way that I see my role is I'm beholden to the company who pays me, but I'm also beholden to community. Right, I'm born and raised here, you know, a person of color, and both my parents work in nonprofit spaces. Like, I'm beholden to them at the end of the day, right? My job will come and go at some point, but I'm beholden to them. And so for me, when I do my work, I hold them as my motivation to what's right and what's wrong. And so as I take these risks and these leaps, you know, there's certain things that I have to you know, pull on, right? Like, what is the press strategy going to look like here, right? How are you engaging with elected officials? That's all currency for me to translate back to the corporations. Like, look, there's value here, right? If we think about this from a selfish perspective, right? There's value to be had here. We just have to support these organizations doing work in the community. And so what my job is to translate those things back to get to a point where we can support this work. You know, we built up this partnership with Pastor Mike and Live Free over the course of so many years. I can almost write a blank check and know that it's going to be put to good use, but my corporation doesn't know that, and I will. I'll keep doing that. I'll keep doing that. But that is rooted in a trust-based relationship where I can call Mike at any time and say, hey, Mike, I got this thing. What do you think? Where would y'all activate? Right? And you know, when I talk to philanthropists, I talk about philanthropy ideally being risk capital, right? Like, we're supposed to use this money to take big shots. We're supposed to use this money to change the way that we do things, right? Tax dollars are meant to scale things up and to you know, increase the reach. Philanthropy is truly meant to change the game. And you know, when I talk about this in regards to housing and homelessness, which is something we do, you know, I'm supporting cash transfers, right? Like, that's risky capital. That's risky concepts. Why can't we do the same when we talk about racial justice? You know, why can't we do the same when we're talking about organizations led by people of color? Right, that conversation shifts. And so in a perfect world, I can keep doing this work, but it's really my job to go to bat to try to make this work happen. And when I stop doing that, hold me accountable, Sherrie and Pastor Mike, when I stop doing that, then I need to stop doing this job.
you are showing no signs that you will stop doing that. Devin, there are a lot of the museums are open to everyone, technically. Theoretically, yeah, they care about you. They are technically open to everyone, but they're. See how my mic
All right, I
went
think
off?
this one is on. Great.
Yeah. So, but there are ways and structures and practices that often make people feel like they're not welcomed.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about how you are thinking about changing that for this museum and for the people in the room that made the risk to sit down here, and for the people that didn't?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in my work there's a delicate balance between institutional priorities, which sometimes may look slightly different from those of community. And I think in my work I really am interested in prioritizing community first and foremost, but also prioritizing long-term reciprocal relationships and maintaining those over time. But I also think part of that work is recognizing that museums are a place that not only have historically misrepresented and underrepresented communities, Black, Brown, Indigenous, otherwise, but also have been hostile environments for those communities. And that's something I'm super conscious of. And I personally, whether or not the institution agrees or not, I'm very much someone who thinks that museums should be used as platforms for radical ideas. And, thank you for a little clap. But I also recognize that that's, again, a delicate balance and something that requires a lot of massaging and a lot of real consideration for colleagues. So the relationships that I'm building internally inside the museums, they feed the relationships that happen outside of it, the community relationships, the artist relationships, and the relationships that we have with social justice organizations. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, Pastor Barbie, last question before we get into the session. What do you want organizations like this, large, old, I think the DeYoung is 18 something, however old you are. What do you want them to know when they're working with you to make that relationship more respectful and reciprocal and radical?
Well, first, it's Uncle Bobby, not Pastor Uncle
I'm
Bobby.
sorry. You just won't give me a break, will you?
I'm not a pastor. But most importantly, organizations like the DeYoung, of course Google and other corporations in this world, and hearing from you in speaking about what it should be about, you know, not two separate conversations, but how Google can be a part of the real social change in ridding ourselves of this systemic racism that exists, as we know today in the United States. And so corporation plays an important part of that. But DeYoung also bringing the Kehinde Wiley exhibit here, sharing with the world the sadness of our bodies, as we know, of being killed all across the United States, not just by police violence or community violence, but various aspects of life, and elevating it to a point to where what we call in our organization healing through resistance. So seeing these bodies, but yet my interpretation, bringing out the beauty of the sadness of death, and for me, actually bringing it back to life. And as the libation had taken place, was a signal to me how important this is on the museum side, I should say. So having the community that don't really look at this from the perspective of how we look at it, and coming to a museum and maybe seeing a flyer about a father's conversation about their loved ones, maybe I should take a look. And these people come in not knowing exactly what they're coming into, and then they witness and hear this struggle that we as specifically black men go through, and of course the sadness of our loved ones, is a way of expressing to the world our pain. And I'd say in closing, our organization definitely is a part of making sure that families all across the United States come together to network with one another, to love on each other, and to share their stories with one another so that they can begin that healing journey. Because there's so many that are sitting isolated, alone, not knowing that there are folks in this world that is really trying to rid ourselves of this struggle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Bobby, Devin, Adrian, for your partnership, for your trust, for your radical ideas. And I'm going to pass it back to Pastor Mike.
Clap it up one more time for these wonderful, wonderful loved ones. All right, wonderful. So we are going to bring our fathers up in a few moments, but wanted to give us an opportunity to hear some inspirational music, some art that moves your body, your soul, your mind, spirit. Put us all in a shared posture of just being open to this conversation. These are Bay Area folks who are well known all across the civilized world. They do amazing work. They are educators, first and foremost, that have a unique skill, a blend of spirit, of art, of music, of faith, of healing, to reach so many of us in the deepest places of our heart and spirit. So grateful to have Soul Development here in the building to help us prepare ourselves for this powerful conversation with our fathers. So Soul Development is going to come and give us some wonderful music, and following their performance, we will hear from these fathers. Put your hands together, everyone, for Soul Development.
Family, how are we feeling in our bodies?
Yeah.
I had a unique perspective this week. It is the 9-year anniversary of my brother's passing. And the day after, I found myself celebrating, and it wasn't joy like a bow that's presented on a present, but it was joy because I had come to the understanding that all of these losses that I thought would have taken me out my mind did not break me. They broke me open into a new dimension of feeling, into a new dimension of knowing, a new dimension of storytelling, a new dimension of love. And I want to share this affirmation that comes from my dear wife. And this toolkit was written after we lost our firstborn in 2019. But she writes this, and I want us to hold this in mind. When we share our stories and are open about our feelings, we create room for compassion and connectedness. We create room for reference. We create room for love. Let's do this. Britt, how you? You're amazing. Whenever they're ready.
Check. There we go.
You ever come through troubled waters and feel so blessed to make it to solid ground? This last year, I feel like I've been at sea.
No weapon.
Part of the season, we
No weapon.
carried on.
How it go? Check it. Yo, I'm a long time coming. I'm a long river running like the Nile. We prayed a while for that child. Seen delays, not denials. And when that water got deep, I never doubt I stood your word through the trials and storms. Remember when my first child was born? Word is born, my whole world was torn. A deeper grief than any trauma I had ever known. We had a baby, but we never got to bring her home. And I was taught that weeping may endure for the night. But this y'all fight felt like 40 days and 60 nights. It broke my heart and not my love. And I will come to know that grief is love. And if it's love, you never let it go. I just learned to breathe deep through the deep grief. Go to therapy to debrief, then repeat. I just had to breathe deep through the deep grief. It won't be perfect, just be present and repeat.
Listen, hey, I done swam the troubled waters, I got down in the deep. I done climbed the highest mountain, I done been to the peak. I done held some heavy moments where I just couldn't speak. And every step of the way, I know your hand was on me. Cause no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And I'm the number one pick on this roster. So don't come for me, no, don't you try. Cause it won't work, it won't
Check it.
work.
If it wasn't for the blood shed on Calvary, word is born, we would have been called into Calvary. No reference for this pain, ain't no colorful analogies. It's life and death, and it's governed by principality. And naturally, we casualties at wars we never started. Still good over evil. My tribe be lion-hearted. Chant 2 psalms to drive out darkness. Put my faith in God regardless. A man can't be a king if he afraid to take his losses. And that crown is heavy and the cup is bitter. But we won't practice hate because we believe in love, my brother. But when somebody take your brother, make you reconsider. Retaliation had me ready to go murk a killer, that's for certain. What you expect me to do when we see his daughter hurting? You know how many nights I dry my eyes behind them curtains. I'm fighting demons, but sometimes I feel like it's not working. I lift my eyes up to the hills while I'm sat down here searching.
I done swam the troubled waters, I got down in the deep. I done climbed the highest mountain, I done been to the peak. I done held some heavy moments where I just couldn't speak. Every step of the way, I know your hand was on me. Cause no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I'm the number one pick on his roster. So don't come for me, no, don't you try. Cause it won't work, it won't work. Go with me, yeah. Live and prosper. Oh, it won't work. Go with me. Don't go against me. Let's live and prosper together, yeah. Listen, cause I done swam through troubled waters.
Can I invite you to put your hands
I
together?
done been down to the deep. And I done climbed the highest mountain. I done been up to the peak. I done held some heavy moments. There were days then I couldn't speak. I couldn't say a word, so don't come for me. No, don't you try, cause it won't work, it won't work. No weapon formed against me, it won't prosper, no, say, cause it won't work. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, no, cause it won't work. Cause we done swam through troubled waters. We done been down to the deep. We've all climbed some high mountains. Anybody been up to the peak? I done held some heavy moments. So many days I couldn't speak. Oh, so don't come for me. No, don't you try it, cause it won't work. I said, don't come for me. No, don't you try it, cause it won't work. Say that. Say, don't come for me. No, don't you try, cause why? Say, it won't. Tell them, say, don't come for me. No, don't you try, cause it won't work. It won't. So don't come for me. No, don't you try, cause it won't work. It won't work. Ashe.
Ashe. I just want to briefly articulate what was a song previously. Like, it comes to you in song, but the message is ever present. It doesn't expire. So when we were writing the music, yeah, it was a song, but 5 years later is when it became more than a song for me. And I realized that though the weapons did form, and though I can feel them, they did not have the jurisdiction to prosper. But it takes a lot of reframe. It takes coming in spaces like this and hearing our collective medicine. It comes in here and hearing how somebody is navigating, not just at year 1, but at year 14. I don't think in the moment of the offense, in the moment of the harming our loved ones, I just don't think that the person who caused the harm knows how to think in forever terms. And what it's going to cost the family to have to do that work and be in spaces like this. So it's with a full heart. I didn't I used to remember when my jaws would clench around this time of year. I couldn't say nothing. But in the medicine that we've come to know and in the stories we've come to tell, we say that these songs are not just songs, they're stories that we cannot afford to forget. Ashe.
All right, clap it up for Soul Development, everyone. One more time. All right. Well, we are, again, so grateful to have these wonderful, amazing fathers who have joined us. They have left their city, their family, to be with us here in San Francisco, California. They are literally from all across the country. So I would love for you all to stand to your feet, and let's welcome these wonderful fathers as they come to the stage and join us on stage here in these chairs. And we'll introduce you all as you come. But come on, everyone, let's celebrate these fathers. Come on, y'all, give them some San Francisco Bay Area love. Yes, yes. Now, they have brought, as you can see, photos of their loved ones who have been lost. And so as we just go down the line, I just love for you all to just introduce yourself, let us know what city you're from, but also tell us a quick story. Introduce your beloved who you are here in memory of to this audience. And then we'll jump into some quick reflections. Brother Wright.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm Arbuey Wright, the father of Daunte Wright, who was killed in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. He was pulled over by a policeman. He was pulled over for an air freshener that was hanging inside his car. The officer claimed that she was trying to grab her taser, but she used her gun and killed my son. So, and it's also, let me just say before we start, it's an honor to be here to be able to tell you guys about Daunte. You know, he was a good kid. He really did deserve what happened to him.
Thank you. Come on, everybody, let's show some solidarity and love. Why don't we head on over to you, Brother Tarver?
My name's Kevin Tarver. I'm from McKinney, Texas. My son was Darius Tarver, well known as DJ. He was a 23-year-old criminal justice major, 2 degrees at the University of North Texas, on the dean's list, active member of NOBLE, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. He served the community, worked 2 jobs, never been in trouble, no record, no background. A person that was looking at going federal to basically be able to help change the very thing that murdered him. He was in a almost fatal car accident the prior week, and the hospital failed him as well. They released him from ICU trauma and sent him home within 24 hours. And the following week, he was found himself in a mental crisis, having a TBI. And his crime was holding a pan because if any of you are familiar with a TBI, it affects your sight and sound. He was knocking out hallway lights with a frying pan, but he was crying out to God because he couldn't communicate to anybody else. His roommates and neighbors called to get him help. They dialed 911. And my son, as he cried out to God and he came to the bottom of the steps, when he was actually following commands, even though he could not communicate, his words that they said threatened him, he was saying, "My Heavenly Father," repeatedly. And they decided to tase him. Within 28 seconds, they shot him. He's on the ground rolling back and forth, crying out to God, yet 4 officers never tried to help him, never tried to restrain him. They allowed him to get up and shot him 2 more times. And they tried to justify that. So my son's case is one that was right before COVID. It took national attention, but COVID smothered it. But after George Floyd case, I decided to, keep pushing it, and the rest, we can talk about later or just follow the site. But that's a little bit about my son and who I am and why I fight.
Thank you, brother. Andrew, please.
Thank you, brother. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I know we could be anywhere in the world on this Father's Day weekend, Saturday morning, afternoon, but you took time to come here and hear these stories. And if I had 1,000 tongues, I couldn't thank the sponsors and you guys enough. Because when this happens to you, if we was burnt up, there will be a place that we can go for therapy. If we were suffering from cancer, there'll be an institution that we can go to receive treatment. But when, the hardest feeling in the world is to have to go to the graveyard to visit your child. And there's no therapy for that. So this is a form of therapy for us fathers, and we're forever grateful. My son was 14 years old, an honor roll student, a child that most parents would pray for. Originally, we were from New Orleans. We had relocated to Tampa, Florida, after Katrina. And while at Tampa, Florida, my son wanted to participate in the Florida State Fair, which is a gigantic fair that comes to town every year. And the schools are let out. Everybody that goes to public school is given a free ticket to attend this fair. And my son was a social butterfly. He was an exceptional athlete. He was a man-child. We had just won the Little League Pee Wee Pop Warner Championship in Orlando, and this was in February. And he said, "Dad, can I go to the fair?" He wanted to go to the barbershop to get his hair cut, and he wanted to stop at the mall to get him a new outfit because this was something that was very high on his list. So we allowed him to go to this fair, and while he was at this fair, he was detained by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department. Never accused of a crime, never committed a crime, just no paperwork the whole while. So here we go. We're in Tampa, Florida, and we're working with the Jump Out Boys, the gang task force that has my son detained because he was on a ride and seen his buddies being detained and got off the ride and went to see what was going on with his buddies. And the kids, his hat fell off and the shoe fell off as the officer was struggling with these little kids. I'm not talking about grown men, little kids. So, my son picked up the hat, he picked up the shoe. The little boy's name was Robert, and Robert, here's your hat, here's your shoe. What's going on? And they called my son Pee-wee. Pee-wee, you see what they're doing to us? Yeah, what y'all did? We didn't do anything. Officer, why they're being arrested? You know these kids? Yeah, these are my football buddies. I was supposed to come to the fair to meet them. Well, come on, you need to come with us. For what? I didn't do anything. So he was detained and paraded through the fair and photographed and fingerprinted and placed in a police car and basically abandoned on side of the road, on side of 280 or 580, a major interstate. It was I-4 in Tampa, Florida, without a phone call, without any notification at all. And just, as 14 years old. And as he was trying to make it back to the safety of the fair, he was hit on top of I-4 by 19-year-old Jonathan Hatfield, white male coming from the fair, going to the casino, in my world, coming from the bar, going to the bar. Jonathan Hatfield wasn't given a breath test. He wasn't given a ticket. He was allowed to leave the scene with my son's remains all over the front grill as if anything didn't happen. Now, to go ahead on and land this plane, we sitting up here right now, and everybody that's on this front row, where we all hate to be at, we'll give our whole situation back because we no longer fighting for human rights. Everybody up here was settled for animal rights because they couldn't do a dog like they did these kids here on the stage. You couldn't put a dog in a car and drive it around the block 2 or 3 times and drop him off like they did my son. You couldn't stand over a German Shepherd like they did Oscar Grant and shoot that dog. You couldn't stand on a dog 9 minutes like they did George Floyd. You couldn't go into a dog's house and shoot a dog while the dog was laying in his bed like they did Breonna Taylor. So we're no longer fighting for human rights. Just in this great country of America, to be equal to animals. I see.
Uncle Bobby, obviously you've already had a chance to introduce yourself, but certainly as you speak, maybe just say a bit why Love Not Blood, and particularly the Gathering of Fathers, has been so important to you and to AB and to all of us collectively as a movement, because you and B have been a singular force in gathering families. And I don't know how many miles they put on themselves, but after every father, mother has to deal with this issue, they are immediately contacted and they get on a flight and fly anywhere. Say a little bit about Love Not Blood, obviously say a little bit about Oscar and why this is such an important issue for you as a father, as a mentor, as a leader in our community.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. First, before I specifically answer the question, I just need to ask, is there anyone in the room that doesn't know who Oscar Grant is? It's okay if you don't. Raise your hand. Okay, so everyone here obviously know who Oscar Grant is and his story. So the Love Not Blood campaign basically is a grassroots organization specifically led by my wife and myself as impacted family members. I am the uncle of Oscar Grant. And of course, my wife's first cousin, Gail Keaton Smiley, was killed in Detroit. And so she's been in this fight for quite some time. And just last year, sadly, she lost her sister through vehicle homicide, but our direct pursuit to get justice for her has been against the Phoenix police. So this wound that I suffered from with Oscar has again been reopened through the death of my sister-in-law, Dorothy Jean Dale Chambers. So of course, the work that we do is that we, and I need to frame it like this. It was the Oakland community that loved on us when Oscar was murdered. The community stood with us. All of you prayed for us. Many of you maybe have showed up to some of the protests concerning Oscar. We didn't know what to do, but it was this community that embraced us and gave us enough foundation to begin to learn how heinous this act was and how important your love was for us. And it was from there that we reciprocated that love to what we prayed and asked God for every family that we possibly could get to. So for Derek Jones, as soon as we got back home from the sentencing of Johannes Mesley, Derek Jones was murdered. And I can remember, this is what propelled me. This was the guiding light that I knew I had to do what I'm doing. And so I said to the wife, we got to go see this family. And we went to see Mr. Jones and his wife. And, they was older than I. And I can remember embracing both of them. And they cried in my arms. Oh, it's still, that was a significant point in my journey. Just give me a second. Wow. And it was from that point that I knew how significant that hug was. And so we made it a point that every family that God would allow us to get to, that we would love on first. Just let them know that we care and we feel their pain. And we've been running ever since. So we have created, of course, the Love Not Blood campaign, and
One of our campaigns is called Families United for Justice, where we give conferences every year. And we have 200-300 impacted families, all by police, that comes to these conferences. And the idea behind the conferences is for them to just to love on each other. And what we found with that love is that as we give this love, it's a piece of healing that begins. And a way we begin to look at doing what we can for those that are at the very start of that pain. And I'll say this and land this plane like Andrew. Wow, that was hard to go back to that point. You know, and that's the significance of this. Sometimes we have to journey back to that very wound that we felt. And as you can see, it brought tears back to me. So that means that for me, how emotionally I'm tied to this. But I can remember Andrew and Deanna coming to our first conference in Oakland. They were broken. Andrew had just been murdered. And all we could do was just love on them and show them a piece of Oakland and the love that we got from Oakland, and the Oakland community surrounded them, embraced them. And they have been doing exactly what we've been doing. They have found in their struggle to embrace another family, to love on another family. And so this is a ripple effect that takes place. And so, you know, in closing, these conferences we put on is our way of helping families to heal. We call it healing through resistance. And these families network, they love on each other, we embrace, and all these fathers that are sitting on the stage has been to a conference of ours, and I've also stood up and now are doing the work in their community, loving on families and organizing families and fathers, you know, just so that we can find a way to stop this systemic state violence that is happening so consistently.
Yeah, come on, let's appreciate. So, Brother Tarver, I love to come back to you. Obviously, your loss is one that has underscored that when Black men experience a mental health crisis, we rarely get the space to have such a crisis without being seen as a lethal threat. As a father who obviously has had to have your own crisis, likely of mind, body, and spirit, can you talk about what that revelation has done for you, and certainly what you think that says about us who are men and fathers having to navigate not just our own personal journey through such landmines, but then realizing that your own child had to navigate that, and still you have not received justice. Just open up this mental health conversation for us, and how you have personally navigated that, and what this tragedy has revealed for you in relation to that.
Well, thank you. Well, one of the ways that I had to push through this is that from a spiritual side, and if I tell you from the spiritual side, the way I had to address everything, it's because the Friday before my son was actually killed, that was the first time we went and seen the car, and I broke down and I cried, and I'm like, there's no way he should have survived the car accident. And I talked to him, we went out to eat and everything, but I told him God has something special in your life. I said, just give everything over to Christ, not knowing he went to 3 different ministries that Sunday, but the third church, he heard a message that impacted him, and that Sunday he surrendered his life to Christ. And that Monday was Martin Luther King's day. And 3 o'clock in the morning, he was dead. I was never contacted by law enforcement. And the flip side of that, I also serve with McKinney PD. I'm the chaplain. I'm peer support. I'm certified in behavioral health. I'm certified with victims advocacy. I do all these things. So I was doing all these things prior to. And then to see your child go through this situation when he was called to help, and I don't know if you know the statistics, but a person that's in mental health crisis are 16 times more likely to be killed than an actual good standing person that may be violent or anything else, but a person in crisis. But for a Black American in a mental crisis, it's 3 times higher than that. So if you call 911, it's actually almost issuing a death sentence. And I created an organization in my son's memory. His name was Darius Tarver, so DJT Justice Network. And one of the things that I do is that I focus on mental health. I focus on qualified immunity. I focus on trying to get resources to the community that you normally don't have. We can also tell our children what to do, and we can tell the community what to do. But I also have to include the other side that's actually part of the reason that a lot of us are here. I have to get them involved and say, what are you going to do? So they're involved in most of the things that I put on, because the thing is if you don't open up that conversation and you don't start putting it out there, nobody else put it out. Everybody talks about mental health, but nobody's funding it. Everybody talks about this is number one issue, but you got 18,000 departments of police agencies out there, but only 3,000 departments go through CIT training. That's a problem.
What is CIT?
That's crisis intervention training, which helps you to be able to deal with people that's in crisis.
So you're saying 18,000? Please leave my mic on. Thank you. Because we about to have a real interactive conversation. I want us to capture everything. So you're saying there's 18,000 police departments, but by your count, only 3,000, about that many go
Not
through.
even my count, that's statistics.
That's the statistics. By 3,000 of the 18,000 go through the CIT training, which is to train law enforcement officers how to interact with people who go through
mental health, even though that's the number one issue out there. So some blame it on no funding, some blame it on the department's not big enough. There's all types of excuses, but no solutions. But one of the things that I was part of one of the families that when President Biden signed the executive order last May, we did get implicit bias training. We did get things to address mental health. My son's case was actually part of the pushing of the 988 number as well, to be able to get past to where you can dial 988 for suicide and mental health and not dial 911, so you can get good response.
I love to ask brother Joseph here, and even Brother Wright, if you want to chime in, Uncle Bobby too. What has been the hardest part of your own personal navigation around healing? You know, I mentioned in our opening that, sometimes our journey to healing as black men, generally, certainly as black fathers, may not be as linear as some would say. You all are actually having to heal from a tragedy on top of just the experience of being a black male in a society that is particularly anti-black and certainly views us as a threat almost all of the time. Even you can have degrees, you can have a smile on your face, and you still a threat. Right. Your journey of healing. Talk about, as a father on this Father's Day, what did that journey look like?
This is like most holidays and birthdays and special occasion when family gathers and you expected to spend quality time. There's always, like dinner time for us as a family. I always have to deal with that empty chair at the table. And there's no healing in this. This is a life sentence. Part of the stages of healing that you go through is acceptance. And as a family unit, father, mother, and my son had a little sister, Deja. As a family unit, we have to be able to accept that we're going to never, ever, ever see this child, our son, her brother, here on earth again. We have to live with that every day. My wife had a very difficult time dealing with it. I can remember sleeping in the bed with her, and I know she was sleeping because I can hear her snoring. I can hear her breathing real heavy. But as I look over to her, and I know she's sleeping with her eyes closed, I can see the tears falling down her face and her pillow being soaking wet. And she's a smeller, so she's left our bedroom and went to spend a lot of time in my dead son room now. And she wants to smell his sheets and smell his clothes, she's forgetting what he smelled like. And, you know, for me, that was my namesake. Andrew Joseph Sr. is my father. I'm Andrew Joseph Jr., and they just killed Andrew Joseph III. That's my DNA. There will never be another Andrew Joseph. To this very day, I'm having a difficult time remembering what he sounded like. This is 9 years later, and my little girl's concerned. She was 10 when her brother died. She's 19 now, and from day one, her biggest concern was that now she's an only child, and she would never have the opportunity to be an auntie. So this, you know, when the cameras go away, when the door closes, this affects your family for a lifelong time. This is a lifelong sentence, and you know, there's no complete healing, but you know, we're strong people. We have maintained a strong family because, as statistics say, this type of grief comes with a hospital visit. This type of grief digs in your pocket financially. This type of grief breaks families up. Most families in this situation will wind up in divorce, but we've been grateful that God has brought us this far and gave us tremendous platforms to share His story. And after hearing things like this, it makes you take a very close look at your own lives and the decisions that you're making on a daily basis. But for the most part, this is no complete healing ever. This is something that we will live with forever, and we just have to learn to live with it.
I can't even say that. I don't even know what healing is, because at first I thought, you know, I can heal myself by going to the doctors, and they was loading me up with all these pills and stuff. So, but you know, like my son was just killed in 2021, so it's all still new to me, and this is kind of my healing. You know.
What is healing about this kind of?
What's healing about this is, from losing my son, I just kind of stayed to myself, and I was just didn't want to deal with anybody. So as I started talking to these brothers, and they was telling me, you got to start doing things different. You know, get out of that room. And so, like I said, what's healing about this is just being able to tell a little something about my son, and just seeing that there's people that actually care. Because for a minute I thought I was by myself, and I felt like I could deal with it by myself, but I can't. So,
do you find the isolation, like feeling like you're by yourself? Do you find that to be something that you think is more unique for you as a father in these kind of situations? I don't want to put words in your mouth or anything, but you know, I'm curious about just, you know, that isolation, because as men, we often are we internalize. I don't want to like paint with too broad a brush, but you know, we're taught as men, particularly growing up in the hood, to not show a lot of emotion. Don't be, you know, I remember my dad told us growing up, don't be walking down the street grinning all the time, but somebody gonna knock you upside the head and take all your stuff. So you got a mug on because you trying to put on some armor, right? But then that just becomes a lifelong, you talked about sentence. Like that mean mug for protection becomes a lifelong sentence. And then often the internalization of emotion often is another outgrowth. This kind of environment gives you, I think I hear you say, an opportunity to kind of break through some of that isolation, maybe?
Isolation was probably the worst thing, to be honest, because I grew up with my father saying, well, you're a young man, you're not supposed to be crying and all that. So the isolation part, me being back, that's what I was doing. I pretty much cried for like 60 days, and I couldn't even stop. So I was just like, oh man, the isolation was probably the worst thing that I was doing, to be honest. But that's how I was taught. Right. So I thought it was the best thing for me, but it wasn't.
Right. So. Uncle Bobby, jump in here, because, again, I remember you, Michael Brown Sr., we were together, and you all were telling me how important it was for you all to make sure we focus on healing fathers, healing men. Hearing what you've heard, and obviously the parts that have not been said, just open that back up again for us as an audience. Why is the healing of fathers and men who have to survive this kind of loss such an important part of Love Not Blood? And perhaps what must all of us in this room and beyond do to make sure that the healing of fathers and men is not dropped off in the conversation and the next steps related to how we become whole as a community?
Our brother Karenga had shared, I think it was his wife, affirmation in that reading about, and I'm paraphrasing, but I thought it was really important to hear that for me. These platforms gives us an opportunity to share our story. And allowing us to share our story actually make room for growth, better understanding. I'm paraphrasing words, and I think she said more compassion and understanding of this struggle. And so I was blessed because my wife helped me when doors like this open to do it right, because there was an element of me that didn't want to face the pain, so I wanted to teach you about how heinous police violence was. And then she would remind me, you are an impacted family member. You have to share that respect of it. And so when I attempted that, I would cry. I'll be on stage, I'll reopen that wound, and tears would just flow, and then I was like just all messed up, right? But it helped me begin to deal with the loss of my nephew, and then better understand as the tears dried on what happened, and better understand what it is that I'm required to do. And that's where my journey really began. So, and I listened to Arbuey talk about sitting in isolation and getting the medicine to deal with the pain. But for me, it's better for him to sit on a platform like this. That's why he was so important that he had this opportunity to be here in San Francisco, to hear us that's been a little further down the road, express ourselves, articulate our story, and hope to give him some clarity on him also coming out of isolation and being able to share what's going on with him, opening up the doors. So if I answer the question about what has been the challenging aspect of healing through this tragedy, was getting out of isolation and getting out of my head and thinking that I need to teach you rather than really share what was going on inside of me.
We have a few moments, and we're gonna, try to create some space for some Q&A. But I love for all of you all, if you feel so led, just to chime in on this question. But I said this in my opening statements of how fathers are just usually not considered sympathetic enough figures when a loved one is lost to extend compassion to the family. We're often, and in the work we've done, we've constantly tried to feature both or all the involved parents, but it is what it is. Like mothers, nothing like a mother's cry. Like it'll break you all the way down. You sit there like, but then when you hear a father cry, it's like your brain just, what is that, right? What has been the most painful part of this idea of us as fathers being blamed in the narrative? Like, people that don't know you will just assume that, oh, you weren't around, or you didn't raise your child right, or it's almost like you're being a part of the blame what has happened. Has that been a common experience for any of you all? And how has that felt? And the only reason I ask that is because part of why we felt it would be important for us to have this conversation on Father's Day is to make sure that, number one, we keep pushing back against this narrative that fathers are not involved, that fathers are these inanimate, emotional, figures that don't cry, don't weep, don't mourn, don't feel emotions related to the loss. Because I think that is also a part of how we counteract this false narrative. So feel free to just say a few minutes of that, what impacts you in that question.
Well, me personally, you always see the father, whether it's family court, whether it's community, the father somehow always be depicted as the less. He's always pushed, no matter what he does, as sometime that bad guy or the guy that did this or did that. And when it comes to your children, a father may not show the same type of love to his child as a mother does, because there's a different type of connection. I was closer to my mother than I was to my father, but I loved them both the same, and everybody gets a different type of upbringing. But the thing is, I wasn't taught how to hug and love, but I said I wanted to do that with my children. I can even tell you the last words that me and my son had was, "I love you." And the thing is that pain runs deep when other people say you wasn't there, or you could have did more. And you start believing the nonsense. And then you have to realize that, I was telling them yesterday, I teach a book that with other men, it's called Warriors. And it's teaching men to come back to their rightful place as the spiritual leaders and the warriors that they are. Because society have put a bad tag on us, but it's time for us as men and fathers to stand up and be what people don't think we can be, because we are that, but we don't get the attention. Media don't want us to have the attention because it wants to get the sympathy, it wants to get the ratings, but the thing is, it's time for us to take back and stand up as men, as fathers, as leaders in this community, so we can bring real change.
Mike, thank you. When we go through these things, we have to understand that as families, we have developed a belief that, grief is love with nowhere to go. Grief is love with nowhere to go. And, we all on the stage have gone through the different stages of grief, and if you haven't really walked in these shoes, you may be misled. But what we're experiencing now is my brother Avery is still stuck in his stage 1 of grief. And when this happens to you, when you get that phone call, when you get that doorbell ring, and most times it's 12 o'clock or afterwards, and you are informed that your loved one, your son, your daughter, your seed, half of your heart is now deceased, it's like a brick wall falls on your head. And you go through all kinds of denial at first. This can't be happening. This ain't real. I must be dreaming. Ain't no way in the world. Then it comes with all kind of anger. They done killed my child. I feel played. Somebody else gotta die too. I'm a grown man. Who you think you're playing with? So it's all kind of misplaced anger. And then you start playing the blame game. Man, if I'd have did this, I'd have did that. If I was there, if I wasn't chasing this money, if I was in town, if I hadn't worked so much, then you start blaming everybody else. The goddamn police would have, if the fair would have, if the state would have, if his mama would have, if his friends would have. And at some point, you get to stage 2. That comes with acceptance, that I'll never see this child again on earth. I'll never smell him. I'll never see him walk across the stage, first car, college, wedding, grandkids. I'll never buy him another outfit. And then we all get stuck on stage 3, because stage 3 comes with forgiveness. Ain't nobody up here ready to hug no police and say that they forgive them. We will ever be able to be in that type of position. But, also with stage 3 comes the platform. Like, Live Free has given us a platform to give back to those families that's coming in stage 1, and to give them a blueprint on how to. Because this is built to put you in the ground. This takes years off of your life. This is going to dig in your pocket. This comes with a hospital visit. And there's no end to this. This is forever and ever, ever. So, brother, but, this type of situation has brought us closer, because your real family, your blood family, is going to tell you, you might need to get over this, brother.
They're not going to let you stay in that space. Huh?
Shit, look at you, man. But brothers like this are able to understand the grief that I go through on a consistent basis, because this is not something that you can turn off at 5 o'clock and say, I'm going to pick it up tomorrow. This bounces around in your head all day. At the red light, sitting on the commode, sitting down for dinner. It don't make a difference. This don't go away. And you have to learn to live with it. And you have to learn to handle it. Because especially if you had pre-issues, after this happens, those pre-issues exemplify to a degree where it's unmanageable. And the stress and the constant mounts around the heads is just, things that can't even be described in the human tongue.
I'm gonna have us come back down this way just real quick. What were your takeaways from the exhibit? As you, because the exhibit did for me all these emotions that we've been talking about: tears, anger, awe. I don't think I laughed or had a lot of joy, but I felt a very positive feeling that a brother named Kehinde Wiley from the streets of South Central did all this. I was like, man, that's a bad black man, right? So I felt joy about that, right? But as you're here for the first time, what were your initial thoughts of the exhibit, and then we'll probably start winding down.
I think the exhibit was great. To be honest, I'm still, like I said, I'm still just trying to heal, and most of my energy is pointed to that direction. And this is a healing environment, So that's what I take.
Like you, I thought it was just powerful to see a brother in the way has risen in his portrait of Obama first, which was so significant, and yet take our tragedy, this ugly part that we're witnessing so much, our loved ones being buried and killed on the street. Example, Mike Brown laying in the middle of the street, Oscar Grant on the platform, Darius coming down the stairs, and Daunte Wright, stepping out of the car, and all of a sudden, he's just being shot and then falling. And that's what we left with. This is what the world is left with. Many didn't really see Oscar buried in the casket or put in the ground, but they saw him on that platform, hands behind his back, and then shot. Many of us saw Michael Brown laying in the middle of the street, and a sheet over him in death. Many of us witnessed a man being actually murdered in a way of calling out Mama, George Floyd. That's what we're left with. It's an ugly picture. And for many of us, it brings up this some pessimistic view of our life. But Kehinde took that tragic look and to me, resurrected us in the beauty of taking God's gift of this earth, nature, and embracing us in it to where those dead bodies became beautiful. I'll pin it there.
And, you know, to be honest, what I've seen in each one of those exhibits was that picture right there. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but that's my son in his coffin. Now, I don't know what made me print this picture for this particular event because I didn't have knowledge about the exhibits. But this is what was placed on my heart. And I see a lot of seeds that's being planted from strange fruit into this earth. But what the brother wasn't able to capture, what none of us in this room are able to capture, none of us in this world therefore, because I don't really care how old you are, but as you can look back into your memory, you can never recall seeing a white body laying on that ground like that, ever in your lifetime. I don't care who you are. But then if you switch that switch, you can't keep count of how many black bodies you've seen on those same streets.
I kind of want to piggyback off of what Andrew just spoke of, because when I walked into the exhibit, I actually felt peace, but at the same time I felt pain. And as he talked about the black bodies laying on the street, as you see everyone sitting here, I see different faces, different colors, different nationalities. Media always wants to paint us as a threat. Our color have been weaponized. What the artist did, he took that same concept and he erected something that's positive. But if you know statistics and you look at statistics, we're 25% of the police brutality cases, but we're only 13% of the population. But what they don't show you is white America is 54%. They're not getting killed because of the color, but the thing is they don't want you to know that or see that, because as long as you can get ratings, as long as you can make the situation racial, it gets funded. When you make it a human problem, it gets fixed. So when you transition that art, and no longer is it just about the racial, nor is it about the death, but it was about humanizing the color. So now that situation has been humanized in this art. Even Christ is humanized in this art. The loved ones lost is humanized through this art. And when you have conversation with people and you're able to humanize the person. I didn't take the color of my skin. Everybody knew why my son was killed, but I had to transition it to let people see him as a human being. Now you can relate to it. So that art brings a relation to all people regardless, but it lets the color of that bronze stand out as black, and now you see it as a human. You may not have dealt with the same pain, but you can feel the pain in the room. You can feel it through the art, through the color that has been resurrected through the bronze.
Thank you to Kevin for that. But I wanted to jump back to this absent, fathers being absent. Okay. Many of you may already know, of course, Oscar's father was incarcerated when he was murdered. But even before Oscar was murdered, his father was incarcerated. And so it was really important for me to be an image, you know, a most positive image that I could, because Oscar was my very first nephew. And of course, when he was murdered, it was like him having a relationship with a black male or a male in his family was totally erased. And I was appalled at that, because I tried to pour into Oscar manhood and love. And I can remember our very last conversation, of course, before he was murdered, he had talked about his aspiration in his life, because now he has a baby in this world. And I mean, it was all great hearing him really now focusing. And then, of course, he was murdered. But I say for me, it was important that I raise up the element of uncles in the family, other males in the family pouring into these childs that this mass media say don't have a father. There's so many young black males and children that don't have their fathers at home. For whatever reason, they may be incarcerated, or they might not even be existing on this earth, or they might not even be in their lives. But that does not mean that they don't have a representative outside of their father that is in their lives. And that's not even being seen or shown. So it became so significant for me to elevate that aspect. I am his uncle. And there are uncles that do play a major role in these children's lives that mass media tried to say that the reason why they are the way they are is because they didn't have a father at home.
Yeah. No, that's such an important point. And you know, I think one of the challenges we have, right, is that, you know, Western culture has been so invested in recreating families into these nuclear units, when the overwhelming majority of history has shown that clans and villages raise children and families. There's an intergenerational presence of wisdom and love that is poured out on children and couples and families and communities. So the pressure to have to be everything to a singular person is relieved. This is, I think, obviously is a whole nother conversation for another day, but I think it is important to appreciate that no one ought to erase the love that is being poured into our children, particularly at a time when that child is taken from a family or a community. And this is, I hope, the spirit of this conversation. May we break the silence of the intentional erasure of fathers in these conversations and in these moments of tragedy. Put your hands together one more time for these wonderful, wonderful fathers that have joined us on this great day.
If you can, brother, I don't want to, you know, I know they received a lot of information and a lot of things that kind of takes you down. I don't want everybody to leave on that note, you know what I'm saying? I want us to leave joyfully, to leave informed, you know, because this is like our house. So, you know, whose house? And when you say it, you know, you gotta come through your esophagus and you gotta come through your throat, and you gotta pitch it to the other side of the room so they know what's going on. So, whose house? Whose house? Whose house? Who got the power? Who got the power? Who got the power?
We got the power.
And then we power up. Power up. I mean, everybody raise their fists in the air. And then when we break down, it's pow. That's it. We'll put it all together. Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Who got the power?
We got the power.
Who got the power?
We got the power.
Who got the power?
We got the power.
Let's show them what the power look like. Power up. Break down. Power up. Break down. Power up. 2 times. Break down.
Clap it up for them, everybody. Hold your seats. Please hold your seats. Hold your seats. As you clap, we're going to bring you back. We're going to bring you back. But one of the things that we did in the construction of this program is to try to take us all through an opportunity for some healing rituals, or at least a somatic experience. And we have a wonderful practitioner. Fathers, y'all can go ahead and take your seats. But I'd love for you to leave your loved one's picture right there on the chair. Would you mind doing that? So they can remain front and center for us. We're going to have Brittany come and lead us as you take your seats. Father, Brittany's going to come and just lead us through what is called a sound bath. It's an opportunity for us to allow collectively a space for healing through sound and movement to bring this time of gathering to a close. So, what happened? Oh, okay. I think there's an introductory video. Sorry.
I'm Brittany Tanner, a mother, singer, creative, and sound healer who uses music and singing bowls to enhance the power of affirmations. Throughout history, Indigenous people have used our collective voices in the different modalities of music to heal, pass down traditions, and strengthen our mental state. Singing bowls have long been used to treat a variety of ailments, help people to relax, mark a passage of time, or honor our ancestors. As vibrational beings, we are all affected by sound. Singing bowls have the ability to resonate multiple frequencies at once, which can transport and transform us mentally, physically, and emotionally. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to just be.
Thank you for being in this space today.
I'm Brittany Tanner.
Oh, okay.
A mother.
She's back. She came back. I gathered some affirmations from the fathers yesterday. Be imaginative, soul affirmations, and the song Remedy facilitated a healing session for them yesterday. So I've collected their affirmations and I'm going to share them with the room today. And I just want to say that I'm grateful for being here, and I'm grateful to be able to offer this medicine to not only the fathers, but us Black folk in general. I am love. Ooh.
Sherrie. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Mike. Oh, thank you.
One more time for Brittany, everyone. Then y'all just feel the sound going through your body. We're going to call Uncle Bobby back up just to give us some action steps, some ways for us to be involved. And then we have some special gifts to our fathers. We want to just present them before everyone leaves and grab some pictures. Clap your hands one more time for Uncle Bobby, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I need to call up my beautiful wife, Auntie B. Please come up. Again, I am affectionate to the community as Uncle Bobby. I'm the uncle of Oscar Grant. And, of course, my wife, too, has been on this journey and has been a major part in sharing me with the world, being selflessness about it. Yes. And right before we do this really quick, Pastor McBride, my wife celebrated her birthday yesterday. And thank you for acknowledging her on her birthday. Can we all just say, happy birthday, Auntie B? All right. So I'm going to hand the mic to her. She can tell a little bit about our organization, and then I'll give some action steps and things that we could do.
Greetings. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I won't be long. I'm just going to say that I have rotated around the sun 60 times. Milestone, a blessing. But I just wanted to say that Love Not Blood campaign, we have been doing this work, bringing families together. You really should go on the website and see the work, see the families. There's videos from all of the conferences, most of the conferences, where you can see the impact of, we call it Healing Through Resistance. And what we do is we pay for all the families to come. They don't have to do anything but bring themselves. We have workshops on Fridays to give them tools to go back so they can fight for their loved ones. Because, like they said, some come, they be flatline when they come. Really, Joseph's flatline when they came. And the other families that came in 2014 flatline, but you will see them. You'll see them on TV. You'll see them all around with this fight, because that's what that takes. So I just want to encourage y'all to support the families. We have been doing this a long time. We have been raising money to spend on the families so that they can heal through resistance. So support us. And we look forward to 2023. Families United for Justice. We haven't announced where it's going to be at, but it's going to be on the West Coast. We was actually last year in Myrtle Beach, and guess who came to see us? Ian. And we told him to get back, get back. We went right through that conference, and we had no lights, but the families, to see that empowerment, they stayed together because they say they have lost their child. So what is a hurricane? That's what they were saying. So I'm going to turn it back over to Uncle Bobby, and thank you all. Don't forget to come on the 22nd of July. I'm going to be at the door first now.
Yes. So basically, this can't be the last of the conversation. What you've heard today, definitely share with the families, your extended loved ones, and what we say for all our white allies that are in the room. Wear a loved one's shirt. Wear a Black Lives Matter shirt into your community, into your home. And definitely to have that conversation that sadly what you're witnessing is true, that many, many people of color are being killed, sadly, in a wrongful way by the heinous act of police and white supremacy, but also the fact that we also need to deal, as Pastor McBride has been doing the last 14 years that I know, and I'm sure many more years, in dealing with our own community violence that exists. We got work to do. Hopefully this conversation helped spark something in you to play a role in our journey to make it happen. Because I'm telling you, we can't do it alone. Live Free cannot do it alone. It's going to take a mass movement to bring about that real systemic change. And we want to say thank you to Google, who have stepped up to the plate in bringing about real systemic change. And that's the only way we will be able to do it. So thank you. I hope you all got our brochure of our organization. Definitely reach out to us. If you have any questions, information, want to be a part of, or how could you want to be involved, we got a lot of work. We got a lot of work. www.lovenotbloodcampaign. Thank you. Oh, .org.
Oh, yeah, and also next on July 22nd, Ryan Coogler, for those who might not know, did the movie Fruitville Station. So that's Bay Area. So y'all come out on July 22nd, and y'all know where he is all over the world now doing big old things. And he belonged to us. Bay Area.
All right, give it up for Aunt B and Uncle Bobby. All right, y'all stay right here. Devin, you want to come and help us give these flowers out? Yeah, come on. Help us give these flowers out. We have fathers. Come on back up here. We want to love on you, fathers. We know that you're away from your families, and some of you are heading back late tonight or early in the morning, but at least you can head on back with some nice smelling stuff. All right? And so, yeah, come on and stand on up here. And come on, we have some custom-made Live Free coats for you, and we have some flowers. So come on, let's bless these fathers and love on them and give them what they deserve on Father's Day. We didn't get you a tie, we got you a coat. And some flowers, yes. Come on, y'all, stand to your feet. Let's just celebrate them one more time. We good?
Whose house? Ours. Whose house? Ours. Whose house? Ours. Who got the power? We got the power. Who got the power? We got the power. Who got the power? We got the power. 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 Breakdown. Power. Breakdown. Power. Two times. Breakdown.
Happy Father's Day, everyone. Blessings to you. Support Love Not Blood campaign. And we'll see you July 22nd. Coogler, Kamal Bell, Dr. Tamura Lomax, Alicia Garza, Brother Emil Wilbekin, and many others. Right here, July 22nd, 12 o'clock starting time. Doors will open. We'll see you then. Next door, when you go out, if you would like to take a quick photo, post on social media, let folks know you were here. That would be amazing to keep this kind of moving. Just hashtag Kehinde Wiley on your way out. Grab a quick photo and post it on your social media. Red carpet in the room at the top of the stairs to the right. God bless. Good, man. How are you? Always great to see you.